Hello and welcome. We're so glad you're here. This is the Daily Reset for Success. And the co-hosts today are myself, Marian, LaSalle, Lady Lou, the baby boomer babe, and GAIL Stolzenburg. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Terrific. Oh, we're so glad to be here and so glad to have you, Gail. This is like old home week. I think we've all known each other for many, many years, haven't we?
Done a lot of networking together.
Yes. Well, we started this show called the Daily Reset for Success because we all need to reset. Sometimes we need to reset daily, sometimes multiple times during the day. But we're finding that our guests that we have on and the co-hosts that happen to show up with us all have something wonderful to share about resetting our lives, whether it's for business or personal, because we all want to live a healthier, happier, more productive, and prosperous life. And bringing you these wonderful people like Gail, I know that you're going to enjoy what he has to offer today. We are here every single day. It just seems like it's never enough. We want more, don't we? And and so I'm going to turn it right over to Mr. GAIL Stolzenburg. You know why? Because you have so much to share, and we love every minute of what you're doing. One more thing. You know what they call Gail? The connector.
Well, tell us why, Gail. Why are you the connector?
Well, I'll tell you, I started my first business about, I think it was 1968, and I did business networking, except we didn't call it that in those days. It was a while before those terms came about, and in the early 90s, I had a wellness consulting business, and the company from whom I got the health and wellness products was marketing it through what they call network marketing. And so I got a lot of a good training. I think network marketers are probably some of the best networkers around. They got excellent training methods. And so I learned a lot from there. And then I got involved with BNI. And we were discussing that a little bit beforehand. But I spent 17 and a half years with BNI, and they had 41 chapters and I think 1,134 members. I was the education director for them. And so I spent a good lot of my time connecting people, and that's where the term the connector came from.
Well, you are a good connector. And I have a quick story to tell y'all about Gail. I'm going to tell on him a little bit. So remember Hurricane Harvey? If you're not from the Houston area, you may not remember it, but it was a pretty big deal here. Well, I put on social media that I needed some boxes. I didn't have a clue that if you put all your personal belongings that you don't want to lose in a plastic container with the lid that snaps on, and you put that in your tub, I didn't know that it would come right up through the tub and flip over and get everything all wet. Darn. So I needed, after a lot of washing and drying and trying to save as much as I possibly could, I needed boxes. And Gail to the rescue. He drove and drove and drove to try to meet me, because we had a whole section of Houston that went as far as you could tell, where we couldn't meet. So I'm on the west side, the southwest side of town, and he was on the northwest side of town, and we couldn't meet. But he kept going. He didn't stop. It took me, I think, 4 hours to find you, and you never gave up. Thank you, Gail.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that experience, but every time we thought we had a destination for us to meet, the roads were flooded.
A nightmare for so many people. I hated it. It's, it happens in Houston. They're so low and so flat and so many streets and roads. The water has nowhere to go except to back up. And it was a tragedy for so many.
Well, it may have prepared the people of the city, for this COVID-19 episode. The people were already helping each other and working together, and so I was surprised when I looked at the statistics between those that had tested positive and then finally expired. If you look at the ones that are worldwide or even nationwide, it's about 7% of the people. But when you look at the statistics for Texas, we're down to about 2.5%. So I think it all has to do with attitude, maybe.
And giving and sharing. Yes. It's so important for all of us to love each other in whatever ways that looks like.
Connecting is a very important word. Gail, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you mean by connecting even without experience?
Well, when we think in terms of networking, the first question is, where does it start? And you'd say, well, maybe when the person enters the room, or maybe when you make eye contact, or maybe when you shake hands, or maybe when you first start talking. But I think it begins when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you put on your networking face. Tony Robbins calls it peak state. Jonathan Sprinkles calls it position. But it's the attitude that you have that you're going to go out there and help somebody and get into a win-win type situation. So most people have a difficulty because of, I call it, corporate training. You were both on the Big Al segment this morning, and one of the things he talked about is, how does your dog know when you're going to get a bath? And he talked about the dog watching you, and the same thing applied to children. The kid knows when's the best time to ask for a cookie from his mother. And networkers are the same way. There are certain words that raise a red flag that says, this person is trying to sell me something.
Uh-huh.
Would you like to know what those words are? They are I, me, mine, we, us, our. Those are the words that the corporate people teach you to talk about selling their products and services and so forth. And here's what happens. When someone hears that word subconsciously, they think that person is trying to sell me something. And so it's much more important to turn that around, because people are just interested about two things. One is whether or not you're going to solve their problem, or two, if there's some way that you're going to help them generate more income. And if you use the words you and so forth in your conversation, as opposed to I and we and so on, it makes a major difference.
Gosh, I really, really like that. So, okay, can you go over that one more time? I have my notebook right here.
Would you like for me to give you a quick example?
Yes, okay. An example
Right.
would work.
So, do you know how? When I say, do you know how, that creates curiosity. People, it's like, I just found out. Okay. So, do you know how most people? Now, Lady Lou, are you part of most people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I've got inclusion. I have you because you've identified yourself as being part of what I'm talking about. So we have not only curiosity, but we have inclusion. So I could follow it up by saying, do you know how most people have a difficulty in introducing themselves? And you'll see a lot of heads that will nod. And then you follow it up with, well, some people know the magic words to keep the conversation going. Now, Lady Lou, I know you'd like to learn those magic words.
I would.
But we're here in the middle of this session, and it would take me a few minutes to tell you. Would it be okay if we got together for coffee tomorrow and we could see how we could help build each other's business?
Oh, I'd like that.
All you want is the appointment. You never, ever try to sell something when you're networking. That's the biggest mistake that people, and I know you've had that experience when somebody, I call it upchucking, but they unload on you about their company and their products, and they say how great all these are. And
I have this vision in my head of somebody holding open this thing and it drops down with all these things they have for sale, watches and ties and and you're looking over their shoulder to see who the next person is that you want to meet.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I got to go talk to somebody over there.
That's right.
Oh gosh, Gail, that brings back such wonderful memories. Because so many times when I was networking over the years, the old WIIFM came up.
Oh yes.
What's in it for me? It's all about me, and that's not networking. So I created another acronym called WCIAM. Who can I assist meaningfully?
Oh, fantastic. There's no doubt about when you give, when you help someone, it comes back to you multiple times. And people never, very seldom, remember what you're talking about, but they certainly remember how you made them feel. And what they're going to remember, by the way, are stories.
Right.
You see, that's the most important thing to put in instead of doing these elevator pitches and so on. and everything you heard Big Al talk about was stories. And every successful speaker, author, trainer, I used to have them. I had the downtown Hyatt Regency ballroom, and I had memberships to my company where people would hear top speakers. So folks like Jim Rohn and Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, Jim Cathcart, Bob Berg, and Dr. Ivan Meisner. It goes on and on. But they would come to listen to these people. And so the most important thing, the stories, is what every single one of those speakers talked about. People remember that.
Oh, yeah. Always.
I have a quick story. It's maybe not the best story ever, but it's something that I keep in mind when I'm at a networking event. Well, I haven't been to one lately. But when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, whether it's on Zoom or in person, I like to ask them how they serve the world. Because I do believe that we all have that innate, not ability, but need to be of service. And I know that, not everybody feels that way, but most of the people I find out that own their own business or created their own thing, they really want to serve the world in their own way. And so by asking them that, instead of, hey, how you doing? What do you do? I like to say, and so tell me, how do you serve the world? And they just get a big grin on their face, and they just can't wait to share with me how they're serving the world. And it just puts a new spin on everything.
I agree with you fully. The most asked question after you shake hands is, what do you do? And that's just a license for these people to unload on you. So like you, I ask something different. I will say something like, "What's going to be your greatest accomplishment this year?"
Oh,
And this sets them back. They have to start thinking, and it sets a different tone for your conversation with them.
I like that. Huh.
So Lady Lou used to do a lot of networking, and I don't know if you remember seeing her out and about, but she used to wear a crown on her head with a great big spider on the back. It was a jeweled crown spider.
I remember it well.
Do you? Yeah. And boy, that would really open up a lot of conversation too. Over the years, Gail, what have you found that people do that is interesting to others?
Well, the first one is probably what we've been talking about, and that is asking questions. We always say that you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you need to use them proportionally, and so on. So 70% of the time, you should be asking questions, and 70% of the time, you should be listening, and the 30%, when you're supposed to be talking, you should be asking the questions. And I think again, every successful individual that I have met always ask me questions rather than bragging about their business and so forth. So I think asking the questions is number one. Another thing that comes at the end, but is very important, and that is follow up. And what I found is that most people do a very poor job of following up. Most people don't give you a reason to follow up. One of the things that I do anytime that I'm networking with someone is I give them a gift. Now, one of the gifts that I give out is a newsletter I produce that shares the top networking events going on in Houston. And other times it may be a book, or it may be an article, or it may be a link, but I never leave somebody after networking with them without giving them a gift, and that's what they will remember.
Exactly. I used to say there were 3 principles to good networking. Number 1, show up. Get yourself into the networking groups. But right now we're on hold, but there will come a time soon, hopefully, where you can show up. And then when you're there, speak up. I have seen so many people speak into their chest and nobody can hear what they're saying. Lift your chin, speak out, speak up. And the third one, of course, what you just said, is to follow up.
Yes. Well, I think that the important part of in networking, or the basis for networking, is personal development. I have seen so many individuals that you might have called them shy or introverts or whatever, and nothing wrong with introverts, because there's folks like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and so on that are the wealthiest people in the world that are introverts. Introverts just think about things a little longer before they reply. But I think that that's really a personal development process, and that's what I think we should strive for in our networking.
Okay, so I've got some more questions that are rumbling around in here. If you are never selling, how do you get your point across that you had this wonderful product or service that you know is going to be able to help them?
I may have covered that in the little demo with Lady Lou.
Right.
When I finished it, what I said was that the question she would ask me when I got through. But let me run through it one more time, and you'll see how this applied. But do you know how most people have a difficulty introducing themselves?
Oh, yeah.
Well, some people know the magic words to keep the conversation going. Now, what's the next question?
What are they?
Yes. So instead of me telling you how great my company is and how great my products are and how great I am, I have you asking me to tell you more. And when you reach that point, that's when you set the appointment. You see, again, you don't sell anything at the network meeting. You set the appointment so that you can have a one-on-one with them. And that may be Skype or Zoom in these days, but you have the one-on-one with them. And there you'll find out whether or not they're a fit for you, whether or not you can help them in some way, whether or not they could possibly be a client, and so on. So that's where it comes into play about deciding whether or not, if you do it correctly, I don't want to say there's not selling involved, but if you do it correctly, you don't have to ask them 10 times for the business. People make the decision about whether to buy from you or not if they know, like, and trust and remember you. Then it's a no-brainer. And once people have that feeling about you that they can trust you and so forth, it may not make any difference what your product is or what you are selling. They're ready to buy.
I love it. It is that personal connection.
Yes.
Otherwise, you've got nothing. You're just another face out there with another product that, oh my God, he's going to try to sell it to me. No. You've got a beautiful way to go, Gail. I love it.
Well, I'm a connector. I'm a groupie. And what I mean by that is I love groups of people. I love getting people together. I love watching them interact and helping each other. There's just nothing better to me. And I never thought of myself as an extrovert, but most people who look at me think I'm one of the biggest extroverts they've ever met because I'm always, having some group. I like potlucks. I like parties. Like just the other night, we had a Zoom party where we watched a movie together. And then we stopped it and talked about, the different things that it meant to people and what they learned. And it was so nice because these are all people that I've met over the years, last 30 years or so that I've been in business. And we've all done business one way or another, or we've referred business to each other. And I think it's important, like you said, the follow-up is very important. The first time you connect, you may or may not get a sense of somebody, or you may, you may have met too many people at that event to really get to know them and that type of thing. So I think the next step for me would be to understand how you follow up. Gail, what is your secret sauce for following up?
Well, you're correct in that there is a longing for a belonging. People want to connect with one another. And by the way, I always thought you were an extrovert anyway. But and there's a good book. Howard Partridge, who is the vice president of training for the Ziglar Corporation, has a great book called The Power of Community. And, in the networking jargon, some people call it a tribe or that type of thing. But building that community is so important. And that gives you the easiest way to follow up. I was impressed with Tony Harris Taylor. She is a speaker, author, trainer, so on. At a networking meeting, well, I'll back up. As I said, the first place is looking in the mirror and so on. So the preparation is the most important thing. So before the networking meeting, she decides on 3 people that she wants to set an appointment with. And every time she goes to a networking meeting, and I've watched her numerous times, she sets 3 appointments with these people. So you don't wait. You don't say, here's my card, I'll get in touch with you. I'll give you a call. I'll send you a text. I'll email you and see when we can get together. So you totally eliminate the process of follow-up because you've already taken care of it by setting that first appointment. And I think that's the real key to being able to get together with people, connecting.
That's beautiful, because it's done, it's set, and you can look forward to it, and you can prepare if you need to.
That's right. And you know how it goes. If you've given somebody, if you've traded cards, and the next day or the next week you call them, well, you get their voicemail, and then they call you back, and they get your voicemail, and you go through all these processes. Well, if you take care of it in that first meeting, and you can decide whether that person is someone that you would like to have as a friend, as a business associate, when you meet them.
I love it. I love it. I've always said that networking saved my life, and I mean it literally. Because after my husband died, I didn't know who I was, and I had always been in the work world. I never heard the word networking. And once I found out about it, there was no stopping me. I loved it. I went from 0 friends. I had 1,800 people on my newsletter. It saved my life because I got a new life.
That's the other thing that I think is so important. And I do it like you through a newsletter. I think you have to stay in touch with people. Somebody told me if you didn't touch somebody within a couple of months, you become invisible.
You know, Gail, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And I run a business mastermind. We meet on Zoom every Tuesday night, and I help people with technology. And one of the things that keeps cropping up in our group is that they want to be able to stay in touch. But the technology is just so hard for most people. Even MailChimp just seems to be too much bother, you know. So I just came across one of my things that I love to do is to find technology that makes things easier and less expensive. So if I can find a way to do it for free or very low cost, and I feel like it's easy to do, I'll bring it to the group and teach them how to do it. And I just found something I think is going to change a lot of networkers out there. It's a new software, and I'm going to I actually have a meeting with the developer on Thursday. So I can't wait. I'll give you guys all the scoop after I meet with him. He's going to give me a demonstration. It's brand new technology, and I think it's going to be a game changer. I really do. I'm so happy. It'll help people stay in touch. And to me, that even though I am the type of person I am, and I do stay in touch with a lot of people, I still don't do as good a job as I could. If you had to give me a grade, it would probably be, you know, out of 1 out of 10, I'd probably get a 6. And I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I know you said that because of the social distancing, that there weren't a lot of networking meetings going on, but I can tell you my experience. This is my 4th meeting this morning.
Oh.
And I've got one immediately following this. And I have found that I actually do more networking. And of course, I don't have to drive the car or buy the lunch or all of those other things. So this is there. If you want to look at a benefit from the coronavirus, this is a benefit. We're learning how to connect with each other better.
Yeah, that virtual can mean a lot of things. Well, we're out of time again, Gail. I'm so sorry to say it, because this has been wonderful, and I know everybody has gotten some good tips. So one final thing from you, Gail. What would be the best tip you can give us?
You know, every morning I ask myself 7 questions, and I won't cover all the 7 questions, but consistency and persistency are the key to success. And so you need to block time where you do networking every day.
Mm-hmm. in some fashion
Right.
until we can get back out there. And Marian, what would you like to wrap up with? A final thought.
Final thought from me is I want you to go out there and create a fantastic day for yourself, because it's possible. No matter how you're feeling right now, you can create a fantastic day for yourself. And I wish that for you.
Yes. And we all do. Thank you again,
Thank you,
Marian.
guys.
Thank you, Gail. We're so happy to have you. We'll have you back. I know you've got more
Right.
information for us, so we'll bring you back. So I'm Lady Lou, the baby boomer babe, saying goodbye from our daily reset for success. Find us on under Natural Curiosity on Facebook and YouTube, and we're on 8 different podcasts so far. So we take care. You take care. We love you all.